Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you my songwriting process and how I use Ableton Live and the Push to make the process as efficient and hassle-free as possible. As an example, I'm going to re-record an old song. It's a song I'm considering using for my new rock project called Bleak Sun. But I follow the same principles, the same thought process and steps that I would do if I was making something completely new. The key here is when I'm in the zone and want to start creating, not to have to spend time and energy fiddling with setups, configuration, routing issues, anything that would hamper me. So I just want to, when I'm in the mood, when I'm ready to create something, I just want to get in the studio and turn everything off and on, and then it will be ready for me to just get going very quickly. So here it is. First of all, the stuff on the desk. As you can see, I have the Push2. As well as a Roland JDXI on my desk. The Roland is used mostly as a MIDI control these days. I'm thinking of getting a Keystep Pro in the future, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But for now, this one works all right, just all right. So I use the Push in different ways depending on where I am in the process. But when recording and composing, I use it to start and stop playback, start and stop recording. I use it to set the clip length, how many bars I'm going to record for each clip. Obviously use it to trigger the clip recordings, set the tempo, and for some simple and quick audio levels, level management if I need to. So it's almost like a mixer and a controller, and yeah, I like it. And as I often stand when I'm recording guitar, and using the Push for volumes as well is far quicker and more efficient than reaching for the mouse and do stuff. So yeah, I really like that. A little bit, and it doesn't hurt feeling a little bit more tactile either, especially when recording synths. So yeah, highly recommended. If you have Ableton Live, you should have the Push2. Well, speaking of playing synths, if I'm recording or jamming on synth stuff, where I want to free myself from the keyboard and try to explore other soundscapes, I also use the Push in note mode, so I can just play the pads, set a scale, set what kind of scale it is, and just jam along, float along. Often do that these days when I'm learning how to make ambient. Maybe I'll show you that in a video later if I get good enough at making ambient. So yeah, but that's today it is rock. As you can see, I have the Native Instruments Machine Mark III set up here. It's set in MIDI mode, and I set it to control a drum track and a drum plugin in my default template project. We'll show you that later. The reason for that is that I just love the pads on the machine. The pads are bigger than on the Push, and they feel really good. And it's also, yeah, it's pretty easy. I found it easier to play on this one. Also, it's good to have a drum pad set up ready to go instead of having to jump between the note page and a session page on the Push. It does seem a little bit extravagant, but I bought the machine before I moved over to Ableton, and I bought it to do some beat making and create some different music than I was able to do in Cubase at the time. And when I moved over to Ableton, I found out that it was perfect as a drum MIDI controller. So it does double duty, beat making on its own and MIDI controller in this setup. So I use this actually when I'm making beats instead of Ableton. I'm not sure why, but it feels a bit different when I'm using the machine with the machine software and get in another mind space. So it's probably a mental thing, but that's what I do. So there it is. And as always, the mic, the Röda NT1A, is always ready and to go if I want to try vocals. So that's the hardware side of things. Let's move on to Ableton and see what's going on there. So as you can see, I'm in a completely empty and new project in Ableton Live, and this is the template project I've created for rock and metal recording. 90% of the time I start in session view, and this view is so powerful for jamming, figuring out riffs, quick recording of parts without having to think about arrangements. It's perfect to get the song and an idea going, or just to, if you have a riff, just explore other parts of that riff or whatever you can, and see if you can pair it with other riffs pretty quickly. You'll see that. As you can see, for drums, I have a MIDI track with Groove Agent 5 as an insert. For rock and metal, I just love how Groove Agent sounds. It's a plugin I bought when I was using Cubase, and I just had to keep using it after moving over to Ableton. As you can see, I've set the track to be controlled by the Machine Mark III, and it's always armed and ready to go with a decent drum kit, so I don't have to spend time on connections looking for samples and whatever that can take my focus away from the creative process. In addition to this, I have a bass track, I have a guitar left and a guitar right track, and a guitar monitoring track, as well as a vocal track ready to go. All are configured as I want them, with panning, correct audio input, and initial send effects on the vocals to keep me going. Also, I have set up some return tracks, some initial reverbs and delays, just to have something to play with. I often turn off the monitoring for the guitar left and right tracks, just to avoid all the guitar tracks stacking on top of each other and making things unnecessarily loud, and I just monitor constantly through a separate monitor track. So this is how I do the actual recording. In most cases, I activate fixed length, and depending on the riff, I set the clip length to record 4 or 8 bars, and I also play with the tempo while playing the riff to find the tempo I want for the song. And after that, I just make sure that the guitar tracks are armed, and then I'm ready to go. And as I said, to avoid the audio out getting too loud, I double check that the monitoring on the guitar left and right tracks are set to off, and that only the guitar monitoring channel is active, monitoring wise. And then I just hit the first clip and the first scene I want to build, and just start recording. So let me show you how it works. So as you can see, this method allows me to very quickly move through the riffs and move on when I have a passable take. And when I'm doing this, I just go for passable takes, alright takes. I don't go for perfections at this stage. I'm going to re-record everything after I'm done with the arranging and all that. So yeah, only passable takes that are reasonably tight are accepted at this point. And after I have the riffs down, I can immediately sit down and start recording the drums. And that was that, as simple as that. When the drums are done, I quickly go through the scenes and I record the bass, just like this. So now I have drums, bass and guitar. And after this I'm typically ready to arrange the song. Again, here I know the song, so I won't have to do much thinking, but normally when I have a bunch of riffs, I'll just sit down and trigger the different scenes and just to experiment and find out which section is what, and just to find out which order to play them. And yeah, basically arranging the song and testing that arrangement out in the same process. It's pretty smooth, actually. And when I have an idea on how the arrangement should be, I hit the arrangement record in Ableton Live, and I record the arrangement to the arrangement view, to the timeline. And after that, I just tend to move to arrangement view and continue building the track from there when it's committed to the timeline. So this is basically my process for writing new songs, and it's more or less the same regardless of the genre of the project. So I basically use session view as a sort of a sketch pad where I can roughly draw out my track, try different combinations, variations. Another good thing about this workflow is that it makes it very easy to just show up in the studio and do something. even if you're tired and just want to lie on the couch binging cat videos instead. So I really recommend you try to figure out a process and a formula like this. One that works for you and your setup and your gear. This setup has made it way more enjoyable and effective for me to get creating, and I'm really happy with it. So that's it. That's my setup and writing process explained. Hope you were able to get some inspiration from it, or at least enjoy the rundown. I didn't say anything about my guitar signal chain and gear, and that's something I will cover in a video later, because that would make this video a bit too long to watch. Thank you so much for watching, and if you watched all the way to this point, make sure you like the video and hit the subscribe button, because that helps the channel a lot. See you in the next video. Cheers.